Alright, welcome back to another video. I kind of had to reshoot this whole video because there was something completely wrong with my scores versus the way that I was talking about it. This is Saw 2's review, and just a little recap. I will go over all the basic stuff. If you haven't watched the previous video, Saw 1, please take a look at that one. I know it doesn't really correlate with this one, so to speak, but if you're interested in watching that one, it is a little bit lengthy, but my plan is to try to kind of make them a little bit more shorter so that it's an easier watch. The other thing that I got to mention is that there's 3 plot points that 3 points that I'm currently looking at in each single movie, going from plot alone, creative kills, and acting. Okay, each and every single one of these points that I'm making has a max total of 40 points that I could possibly give it. Okay, with an over total of 120 max that we could possibly give a movie. My mom did help me with grading each and every single one of these movies. It was our little way of getting to bond a little bit, a little project, and they thought that it would be a really good idea to make these videos and to kind of make things work a little bit. I know that other YouTubers have also made videos on the Saw movies, and they've ranked them, they've done different things, they had poster boards, they kind of just gave their basic opinion and then had it listed. For me, I wanted to do points because it takes away all biases and it kind of puts every single movie in kind of like a ridicule kind of point where you could really sit down and take everything in, and the genuine movies that are legitimate, really stinking good, hey, they get praised. While other movies that might seem like good movies back in the day when they first came out, because, you know, avid watchers normally tend to try to stick to the originals. Big spoilers ahead if you haven't watched Saw 2 or any of the Saws for that matter. I tend to kind of think that people know about or have at least watched one movie of Saw or two. Not specifically Saw 2 per se, but maybe like Spiral, Saw 10, and maybe Jigsaw, right? So those are like 3 movies in the bundle that kind of are like separate standalone movies that you could probably watch and not even need context of what's happening or what's going on. So let's jump into it. So this movie made me feel a little bit more unnerved. It definitely irritated me a lot more by the influence that this movie set in motion, giving the viewer a higher amount of focus on the police side of the narrative, where a good majority of the movie kind of takes place around Eric, or Detective Matthews, to kind of search out and kind of piece this thing together that his son is involved in a game. Okay. In the beginning, it's not so much really tied to it, but we are given a little bit of context to setting that up. Now, this movie by far doesn't really match how close to Spiral on the Saw detective side of things, with how oversaturated they went with it. And I think that kind of affected me in some way, that it was all focused around police and not so much about the traps. My biggest gripe about this movie has a lot to do with Detective Matthews, which for the rest of this episode or this video, I'm going to just call him Eric. I don't want to say Detective Matthews. I love the character going forward. However, the movie would introduce him without mentioning Detective Tapp. So Detective Tapp was in the first movie, and ex-Detective Tapp, if you really want to be technical about his position and where he exists within the scope of like police work, because he was let go which I felt like was like kind of like a really dumb way to just kick him out, you know? Detective Tapp was definitely played by Danny Glover. I would have definitely loved to see more of him. I definitely feel like they could have saved him for a Saw game. Honestly, having a Saw game with Danny Glover, I would have been happy. I would have been cheering at the screen like, dude, Saw 2, all time favorite, right? But anyway, I would have rather enjoyed the discovery of the first game where it took place and showing the audience in the first scenes of this movie what was happening with Adam. So I know that we're gonna also tap into it with the other Saw movies as far as what happened to Adam. I definitely do not agree with the way that they killed off Adam, but they kept Eric Matthews. Really? It should have been vice versa or vice flipped. I feel like they should have gave Adam another chance of survival, considering the fact that he was locked inside that place for so long. But I also felt like Adam could have saved himself because, well, I know that I'm just going on tangents here, but Adam could have gotten out still. This movie introduces us to Daniel, Xavier, Jonas, Amanda, Laura, and Abby. Oh, and of course that other dude that I would rather just call him Clueless, who immediately dumping more bodies than the first movie, but I feel like each character is uneventful and dull-minded, and Amanda begins to slowly become useless when really she was supposed to keep the game going to ensure that the game was being played by the rules. Right? That's the only reason why she's there. Not the fact that she needs to be tested for a second time, because, I mean, maybe. But also Amanda shares the same quality traits with the rest of the other players of this game. And it's just kind of sad how they made this movie kind of come up with almost nothing, no substance, right? I had to rewatch the movie again after this scoring to look at the reasons why I scored it so poorly compared to the rest of the other Saw movies. And now I remember why. Eric leaves a voicemail for Daniel. Okay, Daniel's his son. Eric is the father. Right? Leaves a voicemail for his son saying, "Hey, where are you? I'm worried about you. Call me. This is your dad." Right? Then, if not hours, maybe the next day. We'll say the next day to kind of make things a little bit more easier. So they end up going after Tobin Bell with the hints of what the Venus Flytrap game set up. Right? If I'm not mistaken, it's like Winston Steele or Winslow Steele or something like that. Okay, so they go to the building, whatever. They show up. They're like, "Hey, we're here to arrest you. You know, you're the Jigsaw Killer. We're gonna take you in." It's like, well, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Why? Check the monitors. Monitors have a game. Eric Matthews realizes that his son is in the game, even though it makes no sense that he would have seen him because of how poor quality those cameras were. But I digress. Approaches John Kramer about it. He's like, "Hey, you know, what gives? Why is my son in this game? What's the matter with you? Blah, blah, blah. What are you, some kind of lunatic?" John says, "Well, if you want to find your son, you're going to have to play my game." You know? He gets all upset, distraught, tries to call Daniel again, but this time he hops on his phone and he hears John Kramer's voice. Kind of doesn't make sense. If this entire time John Kramer has had Daniel, whether it be in the game, whether it be, you know what I mean? Whether it be in just captivity, or whether it was the fact that he was just able to kidnap him and pop him in. That voicemail should have probably been changed. But just for the sake of the video, or the sake of the movie, They wait till after it's revealed that John Kramer had kidnapped his son, put him in the game, that now the voicemail reflects that change. So that kind of irritated me just a little bit, you know? This is like, he had all this time to set up the game, make the game play, whatever, and then, like, out of nowhere, just pick up Daniel's phone. It's just like, oh yeah, this is John Kramer here. Daniel can't come to the phone right now. It's like, okay, like, yeah, oh well. Now, granted, I know that this movie is trying to poke fun at the fact that Daniel is in a safe place, quote unquote, by John Kramer. Okay, that's what he tells Eric. Where Daniel is in fact in a safe at the end of the movie. However, if it wasn't clear to Detective Matthews that he was being baited by John Kramer the entire time, then this movie would have ended very, very differently. If Eric would have been a little bit more smart, he would have been like, oh, okay, well, I don't know why you're playing me out like this, but okay. Or could have just arrested John. Done his job right. Said, you know what? We know you're the saw killer. You got overabundant amount of evidence to be able to put you away in jail. And then Saw 3 probably would have been very, very different. But, sorry. I just see potential and possibilities of making everything better. So, the second thing that made this movie just a little irritating is the fact that majority of the traps within the house, they were never showed. Okay? We may have only seen like maybe, what? So we got, I don't call the door shot by the suit dude. I don't consider that a trap. I consider that impatience and stupidity. When you're clearly told not to put the key inside the keyhole and open the door, it's pretty clear that you should probably just wait out whatever it is and wait to use the key for whatever. But someone needed to die in the first 10 seconds. Whatever. So, you got the first death by that ugly suit dude. The second trap is Obby's, I think. Yeah, Obby's. Then you got the needle pit, if I'm not mistaken. Then you have the glass syringe box case. Did I already say the pit of needles? Because if I didn't say the pit of needles, then there's a pit of needles. That would give it 4 traps. If there's only 3 traps within this entire first movie, then it's kind of pointless to even watch it. Because you got 5 people, right? You got Xander, or Xavier, sorry. I just said his name and now I'm forgetting. So it's Daniel. Daniel should have had a trap. Xavier should have had a trap. Jonah should have had a trap. Amanda, Laura, and Abby. 6 people should have had traps. So if you're telling me that out of those 6 people, we only got 3 traps or 4 traps, that's kind of pointless. Just saying. But I have a feeling it's only 3. Okay? Oh, and Suit Dude. Let's not forget Suit Dude. So 7 traps, but like you don't see half of them. Really? Thirdly, every one of the actors or actresses were almost so disliked by me that all I wanted in the movie was the traps to be that much more severe and kill them off. However, majority of the traps were also like the actors or actresses, uneventful and dull. And that's in my opinion. If you look at the movie and you got goo eyes because it's Saw 2 and you get to see Amanda again, whatever, okay, I could understand it. But at the same time, you can't base everything around Amanda. But you can base everything around Mark Hoffman. I can do that. I'm sorry to bring him up, but that's down the line. The fourth point. Clueless Suit's death was so foreseeable that all I had to do was just anticipate when it would happen. Sure thing, the dumbest character who helped no one solve anything was shot off. That's all I have to say. Fifth reason. This game was centered around Daniel Matthews being the son of Detective Matthews. And all the people in the game were wrongfully placed in jail or custody because of the detective's poor police work. Other Saw movies would later replicate this formula, and sadly, it never seemed to reel me in ever. It's pointless. It's pointless. Because most of the time, the 5 people or the 6 people who are involved in these Saw movies, they're never going to talk it out. They're always going to think that they know everything, that they're going to be the best, that they are going to solve it on their own, and then what happens later? They get killed? Womp womp. Plot alone, 28 out of 40. The one thing that I could appreciate about this movie is that, yes, they attempted to make the movie have a bigger cast, which, yes, took away from really getting attached or liking to one character or the other. Where even Daniel gets blurred in this movie in the background, and Eric Matthews becomes too predictable the longer the movie goes on. Really. Okay? There were some strong points where the animosity between John and Eric becomes entertaining and is definitely worth the headache of how boring the game is. That's it. Creative kills, 22 out of 40. Where only 5 traps, okay, there's the edit, okay, where there's only 5 traps are shown, where there should have been a total of 9 traps. And I think that's also including the reverse Venus. Yeah. Okay, so the reverse Venus flytrap was one of the best traps in the movie, even though it was not one, where I wish the guy would have carved out his own eye. It was classy to see a trap equivalent to the reverse bear trap and kill as it was intended. So, obviously my favorite kill has nothing to do with the main game that's taking place with Eric Matthews. And I think that tells you a lot, because that kind of tells you that the best kill took place literally within the first couple seconds of the movie, where all the rest of them were just flatline and boring and dull. Okay? The dullest kill wasn't actually Suits. Okay? It wasn't this no-name mysterious dude that got shot in the head. At least that was more eventful than the other person that I'm about to mention. So the dullest kill was actually the glass box, okay, with the syringe in the middle, okay, because it had no kill to it. All right, it was literally just a ploy for Xavier to get the combination for the safe. Okay, that's why that's the dullest kill. Just meaningless to me. It's just waste of time. Okay, and as far as acting, right, 18 out of 40. I did not like the acting all the way through and through. Almost everyone that acted was trash. And even though the ending where Eric Matthews is captured in Amanda's game, I wish there was a more creative direction for the movie. I couldn't enjoy its story when the movie is surrounded by the acting being so god-awful. Honestly. After watching the movie, the total score, I dropped it down to 81. Just like, dude, this is trash. This is trash. Yep. Pappa placed Saw 2 at 5th place. Dalt placed it at 3rd place. And Chandler talks about places Saw 2 in 2nd place. And IMDb placed it tied with another Saw movie at a 6.6, making this and the other Saw movie listed later in the franchise in 2nd place. This has to be one of the most debated Saw movies, where placing its story, acting, and even the kills are more debated upon. This movie, I felt, had so much potential, leaving John Kramer still as a mystery, considering that Detective Tapp was killed, and the movie could have led with Dr. Gordon getting the help he needed and introducing another game with other characters that were involved in John's life, keeping the mystery of John Kramer for another movie. Overall, that is, in fact, Saw 2. That is my ranking, and I'm grateful that you guys stuck this one out, even though most of it was just bad-mouthing Saw 2. I do appreciate you guys tuning in, logging on, checking it out, kind of seeing where I stood with it. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. You guys already know what to do. You guys are new to YouTube.